How's she going, everyone? Okay, a few people been asking. The 120, the homeowner saw that I've done a couple videos on. I'm gonna show you how I tune the carburetor on this. I was a bit hesitant to make a video about tuning the carb because I really don't know how to explain it well. So I'm gonna give it my best try here, and hopefully it'll help you guys out who are having troubles tuning. Right off the bat, we've talked about this in other videos. You need the splined jet driver, okay? They're specific for these little Husqvarna motors, the 120s, the weed whackers. You can't just use a regular screwdriver to tune the carburetor on this saw. You might even have one of these already. If you have a jet drive kit or something, you likely have this in there already, so double check. I did purchase a 3-pack of these on Amazon like a few years ago, and that is the tool you'll need to get started. So we're gonna get out in the wood pile and take this outside because I don't want to gas out my garage. Little tip for you though, when you start, if you're starting from scratch, like you have this saw and you're pissed off, you're frustrated because you cannot even get it to idle or start or anything, you know, you might have a bigger problem, but to start, if you're just unsure, and that's what this video is for, is the people that have never had to do this before and want to learn how to do it and look after their own chainsaw. So I would take your jet driver, and on your high and low, if you look inside there's 2 screws. There's a high and there's a low, okay? The low is always closer to the top end than the high, okay? So to start out, if your saw is absolutely garbage and won't start, your ballpark setting is to turn both of those screws in all the way till they're not tight, but just so you feel resistance, okay? Turning it in righty-tighty. Then turn it out 1.5 turns. 1 full turn and then half a turn on both. That's kind of like your standard starting off point where the saw should be able to run and stay idling. It's kind of like guys that are sighting in their rifles with bore sights. It gets you on the paper, but it doesn't dial you in, okay? Another thing before you get started, if you're in a heated shop and you're working outside, say in the winter, don't tune your chainsaw in your heated shop. Go outside and tune it in the conditions where you're going to be cutting. Okay, so if it's cold, if it's quite a bit colder outside than it is in your shop, I suggest you do your tuning out there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the saw. I'm going to get it warmed up. Make sure your saw is warm before you start tuning it. And then I'll do a little voiceover of what I'm doing while the saw's idling.
Okay, what we got here is a few screw adjustments. That is your idle screw. There is your low jet, and there is your high jet. We're not really going to get into the high jet, but I'll explain a little bit of it later. Okay, so what we first want to do is just take a regular screwdriver for tuning carbs, just a flathead, and we are going to turn in the idle screw righty-tighty, turn it in so that our idle picks up and our chain just starts turning a little bit like that. Now what that'll do is it'll keep your saw in high idle. It won't stall out as quick once you're starting to turn the jets. Okay, so now I'm on the low jet. I'm turning it out. So I'm turning it left, lefty-loosey. Okay, and what you'll do is you'll start to hear the pitch of the motor drop. We're giving it more fuel. That's what we're doing here. We're making it rich. Okay, you hear it? It's almost stalled. Now I'm turning it the other way now, righty-tighty. Okay, now I'm giving the engine more, I'm leaning it out. Okay, you heard it almost stall out there. Now I'm turning back. Left again. We're making it rich. Okay, I'm gonna just jump in for a sec. So what I'm showing you there when I'm turning the screw is there's two spots on the low jet where you can snuff your engine out. You know, where it dies out, where you can hear the idling change, and that is when you lean it out too much. So you turn the screw in to the right too much, you hear the RPMs drop and it sounds like the saw is gonna die. That means your engine's too lean, okay? And when you turn it out, you're adding more fuel. So there hits a point where you're gonna hear it almost stall out when it has too much fuel. So what you wanna do is kind of like find the happy medium, and I'll show you that here in a sec when we get back on the saw. And basically what I'm doing is I'm turning it out so the saw is just about gonna stall because it has too much fuel, and then I'm turning it back in just enough till I start to hear those RPMs come up again, just ever so slightly, and that's kind of like your bang on spot. And then of course you're gonna check your throttle response to see if you have a quick throttle response. Okay, back to the video. Okay, so the saw just about died there because I had too much fuel. Now I'm just turning it back ever so slightly until I hear the RPMs pick up. Checking my throttle response. I don't hear any bogging. It seems pretty sharp. And on these little saws, it's hard to get it right zippy, but that's what you do. And now what I'm gonna do is we still got the chain spinning, so my idle screw is turned in too much. So we're gonna back it off with the little flathead screwdriver again until your chain stops spinning. And that's where you kind of want to have the idle screw set after you have adjusted your carburetor. Remember, we only set the idle high to keep the saw running so it wouldn't stall out as easy. And once you get her turned out to the point where the chain stops, then that should be good for the idle screw. Okay, the high jet, the screw that we didn't touch there, basically all that controls is your RPMs. So the more you have it turned in, the leaner you're making your saw, which makes your RPMs go higher. But in these little saws, all it really does is snuff them out if you turn it in too much. So I'm not going to really explain the high jet in detail on here. So you can see our carb is set pretty good. It cut through that piece well. We're gonna cut through a bigger piece here. This is about 15 inches. This is about all this saw can handle, but as you can see, it is doing it. You know, these saws aren't power horses or anything, so you can cut wood this size, but you will hear the saw labor, even with the carb adjusted perfect.
that's the video. That's how you tune the carb. Like I said, I I hope I explained it okay. I'm more of a, like, it's just been doing it the way the saw feels. A lot of it is a feeling, right? And how the motor is sounding, okay? How it feels when it's cutting. I said this in the last video. You can tune it, but once you get in the wood, you might have to adjust it, okay? That's when you're really gonna know if it's dialed in. Another thing I mentioned in the other video, these tiny little saws, like for me, my smallest ones here are the 120. I have a 435T and I have a 440. You cannot have your rakers set too low. Set your rakers high, okay? Keep them high. These are not torquey. These are not torque monsters. If you want the saw to cut fast, keep your rakers high. That doesn't mean don't sharpen. Obviously sharpen your top plate, your tooth, your cutter, whatever you're calling it. But don't take your rakers down too low. I use a raker gauge on this. And then when I'm done, I do a little maintenance, just a little maintenance brush over the tooth again. Once I have the rakers set, I find that you're not going to be throwing chips with this. It's just too little, but it'll keep the thing spinning fast and not bogging out. If that's your issue, if you like shiny, like I got the dang thing tuned like you said, but as soon as I start cutting wood, it's bogging down, check your rakers. You might have them too low. It will bog down. If it's trying to bite too much wood in a cut, it's going to bog down, okay? You saw that when I cut that bigger, chunk there, it was starting to slow down. The chain speed was starting to slow down. You know, the chain, it was trying to throw chips. It's in a bigger piece of wood for this thing. So it needs to throw the chips out. And it just was starting to underperform there. That's why this thing is not, like, I mean, 6 to 10 inches is about all you're going to get. Even though it has a 16-inch bar on it, you should probably run a 14-inch bar on one of these. That's probably the idea bar length for this. So that's the video. Again, short one. I hope it helped you out. Leave a comment if you're still struggling or you're thinking of something else you wanted to know about this saw. I got a new saw coming. For those of you who've been watching, I got another pro saw coming. I got the Husqvarna 572 XP on its way. The dealer just called me the other day. It should be in a day or two here. So I'm looking really forward to running that saw next to the 372 and doing a little comparison. And so stay tuned. There'll be some videos coming out about that, me collecting some firewood with it. But anyway, that's a wrap. Y'all take care, stay well, and Happy New Year. It's in a few days.